I want to start this video by making a public apology. Coming to this video, you probably had to watch an advert, and that advert was more than likely 99.9% chance FF15 in a new empire. I apologise to you. No one should have to go through that. I mean, it's just ridiculous, the number of ads, but what's good, my fellow peasants? How are you all doing? So I'm going to be covering what is probably the most requested video of the week, and it's actually a really cool theory. So this was done by a channel called Phenrir Mailoki. So if I got that wrong, and it was only in English subtitles that I could watch it. But this theory was crazy, it was out there. It is the theory that in episode Prompto, Aranea was in fact Ardyn the entire time. Ardyn was disguising himself as Aranea, and the sexy busty dragoon herself was never actually there. Now I know how crazy that sounds, and when I saw the title and the thumb I thought, god damn, there can't be any substance to this. But I have to admit, despite still being fairly doubtful of this theory, there's some really cool things. So I'm just going to quickly summarise. I'm not going to cover everything that was in the video. I'll leave a link in the description. I highly recommend you go check the channel out if you're interested in theories or cool stories, or you just want to know more about this particular story. But I'm going to quickly outline it. Now the 5 main points that I can identify. One was down to clothes. She has fingerless gloves. She has a scarf that is worn exactly the same Ardyn wears his. And there's this kind of like bag strap thing around her legs. So there were similarities in the model, in the new model we saw. So that was number 1. Number 2 was she never talks about Ardyn. Never mentions him. In the original game, she certainly does. She talks about the Chancellor. And by this point in the story, everyone knows Ardyn's behind all of it. Yet she never speaks about him, and she never appears in the same place he does. And there's times in episode Prompto when it's sort of very convenient, like Ardyn goes just as Aranea appears, and then Aranea goes just as Ardyn appears. And sometimes the timings can be, you kind of think, yeah, I don't know, maybe there really is something fishy there, but I don't know. Number 3, I didn't quite get this point that the YouTuber was making, but the stats. Aranea has different stats. She's actually 10 levels above what she was in the main game. Her fighting style is a bit more aggressive and full on. Her high wind ultimate special ability, limit break. God damn, I can't remember what we call them. It costs 1 tech bar less. There's also the fact that Aranea's HP doesn't appear, and that she is completely invincible. Now I know she kind of was also in the main game, but she had a HP bar, and it could at least diminish. Why did they do that? Now point number 4, so I'm just reading my notes behind me. At this point I didn't quite agree with, which was that she was more aggressive and not as sexy, aka her character was a bit different. Now I certainly agree she was more abrupt, she was more forceful. The YouTuber kind of described it as masculine, the scene where Aranea, this is Sparta, kicks Prompto to the floor and then kind of like jumps on top of him and grabs his head. Personally, I didn't find that as masculine. You know, a person mounting another person. I actually found it quite sexy and titillating, but then again, these days my girlfriend's on holiday. I'll find a donkey in a thong sexy, quite frankly. So, I mean, yeah, I can't really see how that was masculine, how you could be like, oh, that's like maybe Ardyn, like kind of straddling Prompto. I don't know, that's kind of weirder. I thought Aranea was more her own character still. There were certainly differences, but I think it was just a different situation, a different scenario, a different level of grit, and Aranea's on a different mission. I think it's just a given that she's going to act kind of different, but I think more or less she was the sexy, sassy, commanding Commander Dragoon that we know. So that's just my thoughts. Number 5, knows things about the plans that she shouldn't. So this is something that did rack my brain, how Aranea knows about immortalis, how she knows as much as she does, and how she knew where the base was, how she got there, how she happened to just find Prompto in the middle of this huge goddamn base. It was all very coincidental, to the point where this YouTuber speculates that it's too much of a coincidence. Now the justification for this in the game was Aranea said that she had spies, and that those spies had given her this intel. But you know, that even raises more questions. What spies? Who are the spies? How are they able to get away with being spies in a medical facility? You know, it's certainly a hard question to answer. There's even just the general question of how did she get there? Because, you know, I always thought it was a bit strange how Aranea was all the way up in Tenebrae, and now we're supposed to believe she just made this mission to Gralia. I mean, during this happening, Noctis and that lot have boarded a train to go straight to Gralia, yet somehow all of this happens in the... I mean, even if it was just a couple of days, this is still a lot to happen, and a lot for Aranea to do in a few days. There's a side to me that wants to say plot convenience. That's why they threw it in. It was just convenient for Aranea to know these things, and they didn't really think too much about it. But there is a side to me that I don't think anything's a coincidence in this game. And while this YouTuber thinks that this means they might be Ardyn, I have a slightly different theory, different idea, but I'll share that at the end. Quickly busted through the others. The fact that Aranea lies, and she does lie, that was quite a big part of this theory, and the example that the YouTuber used was that when Aranea meets Prompto, she tells Prompto that Noctis and the others are worried about him, and that the prince himself asked Aranea to go look after him and make sure he was safe. That conversation never happened, and they even cut to exactly what happened in the dialogue between Noctis and Aranea, and there was no mention of Prompto. In fact, they thought he was dead. So Aranea just told a straight up lie and completely interpreted the events of her and Noctis meeting. She relayed it different to Prompto. Does that mean it's Ardyn? Well, it could do, but it could also mean just that Aranea was saying that to comfort. She was telling Prompto a white lie, saying that the friends cared about him, that they were worried about him. Because obviously, you know, Aranea comes into a cave and the man is trying to burn his fucking arm. And the reason he's depressed is because of his friends. He doesn't know what they think or if they care about him, and he feels like he's just been betrayed. So for Aranea just to come in and say something like that, even if it's not true, that's the kind of thing she would do just to get his head in the game, get him to sort his shit out. And then the final point was just the ending, and I have to admit the ending was slightly odd in the way that Aranea just kind of sends Prompto off, and off you go, Gralia's in that direction, take the snowmobile and just leave me here. Now the question is, how did Aranea even get here? To travel as fast as she did, she must have had an airship, so that asks the question, well, why didn't she take Prompto on the airship? And just the way it cuts, you know, Prompto is driving away, got Aranea left behind, and then seconds later, boom, cuts to Ardyn, and the victory fanfare comes out. So there it is, guys. That's the theory as a whole. Took me longer to evaluate than I thought it would, and it's certainly an interesting theory. I like it. It was really well presented, and there was a few moments where I went, could it be? So it was certainly exciting to watch, but I'm not fully sold just yet. I think I need a little bit more evidence. There's certainly some conveniences. But the main reason why I think it would just be too strange is that Aranea's characterization was close enough to be Aranea. Now, not to say that Ardyn couldn't pull it off, because, you know, Ardyn probably does. He probably is a master of characterizations, which, if indeed Ardyn is disguising himself as Aranea. And there's a side that makes me think it's possible, because nothing is a coincidence. Nothing is a coincidence with Ardyn. You know, he plans everything out so meticulously, and it's because of that level of planning that it makes me think, is Ardyn disguising himself as Aranea? But if not, he must be manipulating Aranea also, because he's planned this. What happened in episode Prompto was so planned out. I mean, even going back into the earlier game, when Ardyn started whistling the Chocobo theme, you know, saying that his eyes were set on Prompto, the entire elaborate ruse of the train, of Ardyn disguising himself as Noctis, and by that of course I mean as Prompto, everything that happened, getting knocked off the train, to everything that happened with Immortalis and Vestel, Ardyn has gone to insane lengths for this plan. That kind of makes me think Aranea had to have been a part of it. Surely in this huge elaborate scheme, Aranea is not just some wild card that came along. He just happened to show up and help Prompto kill Immortalis and save the day, and without her I don't know how she would have done it. So it makes me think that because Aranea and Ardyn, they know each other. Aranea has been a commander in the army for ages, so Ardyn, needless to say, he knows about her. I believe if he isn't disguising himself, I could definitely get on board with the theory that he's involving Aranea in the plan, and could have been the one who leaked her the information about Immortalis, about where the base was, about where Prompto was going to be. No, Aranea says she got intel, but where that intel come from? Could it all come from Ardyn? Ardyn purposely was the one who even introduce Aranea to the party. Remember when we needed a guide through the dungeon, the necromancy dungeon, and it was Ardyn who put Aranea in control of the brothers, to be their guide and to go with them. And the question is why? Why did he do that? There had to have been a reason for that. And did Ardyn know that Aranea would flip sides? Did he know that she would end up going on this entire journey and helping defeat Immortalis? And that's the thing. I think it is the case. I think it must be, because when Ardyn just kneels down and busts out a victory theme, that means everything's gone exactly how he wants it. Precisely. And that's the thing. Did he want Immortalis destroyed? Because that's the thing. Everything that happened in this DLC led to Godslayer. The Magitech monstrosity they've created, it's designed to kill Astrals. So by destroying it, does that mean that Ardyn didn't want Astrals to be destroyed? And when I thought of it like that, it kind of made me think of other times that we've theorised where Ardyn might not actually be the bad guy we think he is. I mean, of course he's a bad guy, but was his goal actually to destroy mankind? Was it to bring about the apocalypse and have demons take over the world? Well, it doesn't seem that way. When we actually go back to the game, it really seems like Ardyn's motivation more than anything was revenge against the Lucii, the Calums, the ones who betrayed him, and for him to rest peacefully. And everything he did with building up Noctis to be as strong as he was, the way he had the bodies disappear just to make Noctis that extra bit motivated, that extra bit enraged, and then dedicated to killing Ardyn. Everything Ardyn did seemed to have led to that end that doesn't destroy mankind. Because that's the thing, if he'd have wanted to, then surely he would have kept Immortalis. Surely he would have had Immortalis kill Bahamut, or Shiva's new form, or Rama, or Leviathan, or any of the Astrals who were helping Noctis, because it was only through the Astrals that Noctis actually managed to kill Ifrit. Without their aid, Noctis would have lost. So you see my logic there, guys, that I think there is a totally different motivation. That's why I really badly want to see an Ardyn DLC. Oh, we need an Ardyn DLC, because so many of his motives and what he's done these days, and even the YouTuber, funnily in this video, just chalks it up to, so why is he doing all of this? Well, it's Ardyn just being Ardyn. Just Ardyn being Ardyn. And that's the thing, I don't think we fully know his motivations, because, I mean, damn. There could have only, when you think about it, there could have only been those two motivations. One, for Prompto to become strong enough and to fulfill his role in the Genesis prophecy. Now, as one of the three companions of the King of Light, I definitely think that was a part of it. But the other part is he must have wanted Immortalis dead. I mean, he just simply must have. Because Ardyn would have known Vestel was going to upload himself. And then in turn, he would have known that Prompto would have been the only one motivated and driven enough to actually then want to destroy it. And then to have Aranea part of the plans. Like I said, Ardyn has planned this out way too much for her to have just been a coincidence. And why else would he put one of the most effective, prolific demon slayers in all of EOS? There could have only been one reason, to destroy Immortalis, which means in turn he didn't actually want to kill the Astrals. And that raises many a question. This kind of really makes me feel, again, that theory that Aranea is a witch, that she is a demon slayer from the Red Mage family. God damn, I keep saying about that theory. It makes me think it's even more real. Another part of this theory was even how, now that she's separated from like Noctis and co, how is it that she's materialising her weapon? That's the weird thing about Aranea. She can just materialise her spear. I think she's magically gifted. I thought she was dope in the DLC. Not quite sold that she was Ardyn just yet. And I think perhaps they did a bit of shoehorning in, because it is a coincidence that they were releasing the Aranea Highwind figurine just at around the time they wanted to get Aranea in the DLC. But I've rambled on long enough. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Are you convinced? Are you convinced that Ardyn was disguising himself as Aranea? That'd be mind-blowing if that was true. Or are you more thinking towards what I'm thinking, that there was something else involved, that there's a much greater scheme going on? And if indeed you have any ideas of what the hell that truly is, on why Ardyn went through such crazy lengths to have the episode Prompto play out the way it did, let me know in the comment section below. But until the next video, go out!